Oh, hey everybody, it's Amanda.
And Rick.
I was adjusting my seat. Got my scarf on. It's very cold here in
It
North
is.
Carolina.
A little bit.
Like it's warm in our house,
Yeah.
but we were just outside with the cats, so it's just kind of like you still feel that chill in your bones. You know what I mean? It just gets in there when it's cold enough. Anyway, hello.
My collar is doing something funny.
He's got his jacket. I got my scarf.
Oh, I'm
We're
freezing.
like trying to stay warm. Hi, everybody. All right. I'm going to share the links and we'll get started here in just a second. And I hope you guys are having a good day.
We're still in chapter 17.
Mm-hmm. Still looking at David and Goliath. And I tell you, I don't know about y'all, but I need it. It's been an encouragement to me.
We still got a ways to go tonight.
We do.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in on a late Saturday night.
It is kind of late tonight.
I was thinking it was Sunday.
I know. It kind of throws the schedule off.
I announced last night that we had another cat, a new cat. Tonight, the new cat brought a friend.
I tell you what.
So we have two new cats.
That's how we always end up with them. One will show up, and then he'll tell all of his cat buddies. And then all of a sudden, we got 20.
Yeah. It's exciting.
It's true.
They are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Jess said.
I see.
I'm just saying it to the folks. Just a new cat. Hey. I can't do it like Rick does. That's Rick's welcome to the cats. In case you weren't here last night to hear that semi-creepy beckoning that he does.
But I'm sad to say that the newest new cat.
Thank you, Tanya.
Has the scaredy cat complex.
Oh yeah, you can't get near him.
Yeah, the one from last night. I mean, and the thing is that they came together tonight. They're friends.
They're friends.
But one is very calm and one is very skittish. Oh my.
You made me do it.
I know. Oh, you're gonna get me. Okay. Let it die. Anyway, cats, they're funny. Because cats are a cat. Cats are a cat. Cats are cats.
Cats are cats.
But even cats have different personalities.
Yes.
I mean, they're very similar in many different ways, but each one has this little unique personality.
They do.
The one last night acted like he'd been here for years. Then the one tonight, he's eyeballing me. He's heard about me, but he's not sure what he's not sure if the rumors are true.
Did you do the creepy hay?
You never gave me a chance. I was peeping.
He sensed it.
I was peeping from the window.
Yeah. We have to look out the window, or you can't get close to him.
I turned on the porch light and he ran. He's scared of just a light bulb. So, oh my, it's going to be a long time before he lets me stand on the porch with him. Are you done?
Yeah, I just had to pull up. It is Sabbath, so today I was actually on my Bible Hub app looking at other stuff. So I had to go back to 1 Samuel 17 and pull that up to make sure I was in the right place. Okay. Cheryl says she's in Arizona and it's 75 degrees. Sounds nice. Wow. It's going to be 60, like in the 60s here in a few days, but just not today.
But excuse me again. But yeah, tonight it's just frigid. It really is. North Carolina really doesn't get that bad. Where where we are.
Mhm.
I mean, there are other parts of North Carolina that get snow and stuff, but we don't really have too much. Even the cold weather's not that bad. But tonight's pretty tough.
All right.
Either that or my blood's getting thinner.
I think where we're going to start is because where we ended yesterday was talking about David's kind of explanation to Saul about how he felt he was confident to be able to face Goliath because of how the Lord had already worked in his life. And so where we're picking up tonight is where Saul kind of tells him, okay, and at first he wants to give him his armor. And so that actually starts mid-verse. So we're going to start mid-verse of 1 Samuel 37. And I'm going to read to the end of the chapter. And I don't know if we're going to get through the whole thing today. Not sure. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, this is such a great chapter to be in. There's no need to really rush it. You know what I mean? So, you ready? I know we were still talking about the cat.
No, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. 1 Samuel 17, starting in the middle of verse 37. And it says, "And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head, and he armed him with a coat of mail, and David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all his assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines, until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron, and they wounded the Philistines. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Sharaim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son the stripling is. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. So there you go. There's the story. And again, short version. Where we started was Saul was giving him permission to go. He said, How about you wear my armor? He put it on, and David's like, you know what? This isn't going to work for me. I've never used it. I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to do my own thing. He takes it off. He gets his 5 smooth stones. He goes and faces Goliath. Something to note here, I don't know if you guys noticed, in all of that section, he's never referred to as Goliath. He's constantly referred to as the Philistine, which is funny because when David was talking about him, everybody else was intimidated by him because he was Goliath, right? I mean, just the name was intimidating. Mm-hmm. But David said, he's just an uncircumcised Philistine. And here, the rest of the time, they refer to him just as the Philistine because that's all that's important about him. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. So anyway, David goes to face him, and he thinks it's a joke. He's like, what are you sending me, fleas and my dog? Mm-hmm. And of course, as I mentioned yesterday, David wasn't just a young boy. He was a young, very pretty boy. He probably looked like, he hadn't really done anything hard a day in his life because he said he's a beautiful complexion and all that. And fair countenance. And so he tries to intimidate him and give him this whole speech. His carcass is going to be eaten by the fowls of the air or whatever. And David is not intimidated. In fact, he goes back to him and he's like, guess what? You've defied the Lord and I'm standing here for him. And so you are the one who has to worry. I'm going to cut off your head and all of the armies that are around you, they're going to be eaten. And of course, then he runs at him, says he hasted and ran at the army to meet the Philistine. And then he took the stone and slang it as he's running. And the stone sunk in his forehead and of course, Goliath fell to the earth. So then, of course, he continued to ran at him, got on him, took Goliath's sword out, cut his head off, had his head. The Philistines are really freaked out. They were running away. Israelites, people of Judah, they're excited. They're running after the Philistines, chasing them down. Of course, they spoil their tents. David takes Goliath's armor, puts it in his tent. And Saul sees the whole thing go down. He didn't even know who David is. He's like, who is that boy? To his captain of the host. And he's like, I don't even know. And he's like, we'll find out. So Abner grabs him when he's still holding Goliath's head in his hands, brings him before Saul. And Saul says, who are you? He's like, I'm Jesse's son, the Bethlehemite. So that is, again, him coming before Saul, making quite the entrance. So anyway, back to verse 37. That was where Saul said, you know what? Have at it. Go ahead and try to fight Goliath if you want. And he tries to give him his armor. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm tossing it over to this guy right here.
Once upon a time.
Oh, I love the story.
We had a revival in our church back at home in Maryland. Mm-hmm. Had a preacher come in.
Excuse me.
He was a pastor, and he stayed with us in our church. Not us personally, but he stayed at our church. They had a prophet's chamber for about a week. It was a week. And, I didn't really know much about him till that week. And, when you hear someone preach more than once, you often discover, notice, I guess is the word I'm looking for, little ticks, the way they deliver a sermon, the way they talk, the way they get fast here, slow there, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I kind of observed him, and I noticed that his messages were all different, but his delivery was very much the same, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Everyone has a style.
But there's another preacher that we knew of, met him once. He was a member of that church where that pastor pastored. And I remember hearing this second guy preach, the guy from the church. And what I thought was kind of funny and interesting is that to hear him preach, it was exactly like the first guy. Mm-hmm. He was a member of the church, the second guy, and he preached just like his pastor. Got loud in the same way, got fast here, slow here, up and down, this and
similar
that.
Style, yes.
Similar style, similar everything. And again, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but what I'm saying is many times, whether we look up to somebody, whether we just, whatever the reason is, sometimes we do end up acting or sounding like people that we're around. But the Lord made us as individuals. We're unique, and honestly and truly, we should just be ourselves. And when I say that, I don't mean the flesh self. I mean your personality. Who the Lord made. The Lord made your personality, and you shouldn't try to act like somebody else. I say that to say this because I remember hearing a sermon one time at Bible college where the preacher was preaching on David and Goliath. And he mentioned this passage here where Saul gives his armor to David. And he said, it didn't fit. And, you can think of people like your pastor, people in ministry, like the, I don't know, the George Muellers, or modern day, the Billy Grahams and people like that. And you think, well, wow, maybe I could step out and be just like them. But the idea is that I'm getting at is their armor doesn't fit you. The Lord gives you your own armor. You don't have to pretend to be like somebody else. Why try to be a sequel or a number two kind of deal? Just be one. Be who the Lord made. Be you. You're an original in the Lord. If you're going to be like anyone, be Christ-like. I don't want to be like any one Christian, but I do want to be like my Lord, kind of thing. But here's the thought I guess I'm making is, you have a guy, Saul, he has armor. His armor didn't fit David. Okay? David had to find his own way. And I guess that's the point that I'm making. I'm not saying you go outside the Lord. You go with the Lord and in the Lord's will. But many times the Lord will help you along a different path. If that makes sense. I remember hearing a story of what was his name? David Livingstone? Is that right?
In Africa?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was him. I could be wrong, but I think it was him.
Tell the story and maybe I'll recognize.
Well, somebody that not named.
Yes, that's who. I know exactly what you're going to say.
Wrote to David Livingstone and said, what did he say? Is there an easy way to get to where you are?
Yeah.
And David Livingstone said that, we're not looking for someone who's looking for an easy way. We're looking for someone who will make his own way if he has to.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So all that to say, Saul's armor didn't fit David. David had to find his own way. And you can make much application from that, I think.
I remember when you were in Bible college, there's this well-known evangelist, and he was well admired by many people. Rick got saved at one of his revival meetings, and they had to, I think the senior boys had to give sermons in front of the whole school, and it was one of the things they had to do before they graduated. And I remember this story. There was one of them, and I don't know if it was for that particular thing or not, but one of them actually took one of that famous evangelist's sermons and did it word for word in the style of that evangelist. And it was like, he was just trying to be exactly like that evangelist. And it's like, okay, you can master his style of speech. You can be a actor portraying that evangelist. But you're not being, like you said, who the Lord has made you to be. And I remember when you first started preaching, you'd only heard a couple of preachers. And so you were trying to kind of mimic their style too.
I did. That's true.
And there's nothing wrong with that, I think, at first. You know what I mean? I feel like that's how you learn, is to at first mimic. But you can't live in the lifestyle of constantly just copying what someone else does.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. If you're going to be successful, you really do have to find your own way of doing things. And sometimes if people are intimidated, and I think this goes with I bring this up because I think this relates to people who want to witness to others. A lot of times you really want to talk to people about the Lord and you really don't know how to do it, but maybe you know somebody who knows how to do it really well. So you kind of copy their style for a while. And it's not usually super comfortable, but sometimes it's all that you know. You only know how to say it like someone else says it. We were part of a soul winning club where they would kind of teach you how to witness to people, and they teach you a method. The method does not work for me whatsoever at all, but it was helpful to hear how other people did it, to practice, to just share stories, and that all of that was really good, valuable experience. But the way that they do it wasn't the way that I would feel comfortable doing it. But anyway, but as you get going, you really have to start embracing who you are and letting the Lord use your life and your way of doing things. And that's what David ultimately had to do. His whole argument with Saul was that the Lord had helped him with the lion and the bear. Well, ultimately he treated Goliath like he would have treated the lion or a bear, you know what I mean? Using his simple shepherd tools, because that's what he had. And I think that, somebody else might have thought, a sword would have been more effective against a lion or a bear. But the Lord had prepared him in his own way. And I think you might feel intimidated approaching someone about the Lord. But the Lord is prepared. If he puts you in that circumstance, he's prepared you uniquely. And you just have to dig into your own bag of tricks and see, what has the Lord shown you in your life, so that you can then go out and talk to other people. We all have, the Lord has given us our own little bag. Some people call it baggage, but it's our own little bag of life that the Lord's given us that we can dig into every now and then and pull something out and share it with someone and help them to come to know the Lord. But it's valuable. You really got to appreciate it for what it is.
I see the armor as a picture of gifts, and I know that the Lord gifts us all. You're not going to be able to serve the Lord if you try to tag team with someone else's gifts. The Lord has gifted you personally. I'm glad he gifts everybody, but I'm interested in knowing what the Lord has gifted me with and for and to do, kind of thing. Like I said, I don't want to linger on that thought too long. I think we all get the point. But I think many times in life we are tempted to try to mimic others. I think we can learn a lot from each other, especially people who have been walking with the Lord a long time. So I don't think it's wrong to be encouraged to be more godly when you're around godly people. And you perhaps may, take on some traits here and there from others that are around you. That's just natural. But I think there's a balance, and you got a certain point. You shouldn't, if your flesh says, be just like that person. There's an extreme that I think we should avoid. Okay. I admire a lot of preachers and things, but I find the older I get, I just want to be Richard Beale. Seriously.
It's all you can be.
Because I do a lousy job trying to be somebody else. I barely handle Richard Beale. but I know him. Yeah. And I've been around him a while. So I'm just going to be Richard Beale.
I appreciate that, fella.
Yeah. So you just be who the Lord made you to be. And like I said, I'm not saying be the carnal you or be the worldly you. Be the spirit-filled, spirit-led new creature in Christ. But be the individual that God has made you to be. You don't have to act like your pastor, talk like some preacher. You can talk like a preacher, perhaps, fellas, but what I'm saying is you don't have to say, I admire so-and-so and I want to talk just like so-and-so and be like so-and-so and comb my hair just like so-and-so and wear the, you know what I mean? Let's not do that. That's all.
Kelly said there can only be one Rick. That's a fact. Well, there's two, actually.
Oh, you talking
Richard
about
Jr.
the California Richard?
Yeah, he's the second one. Anyway, Nicole said, "What do you do when you feel like you're not being your authentic self?"
Well, just do it. Be it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. She said, "How do you reset?" I think part of
Well,
that.
hold on. You put the finger up there like that, and you go around 3 times. Inside joke. Never mind. I do it every morning. It's a refresher. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it's different for different people, because I think you find it much easier to be inauthentic than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the thing that Jesus says? He's like, "Here's in whom there is no guile."
Mm-hmm.
I forget who that is. I have no fake.
Was that Nathaniel?
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
I cannot be fake. I am incapable of being anything other than what I am, and for the better or worse. I have, and sometimes that means I have no tact. So, I mean, but some people are very good at putting on a public persona.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they're professional, even. And you're better at that than me, because I have no ability to be inauthentic. But I do think that as someone who can be inauthentic, not to be fake or anything, but I think you just try to be professional, and you have a public face, and I think you just have a very professional way about you that I lack.
Me?
Yes. But when it comes down to dealing with people, like individually, you break down that barrier. You know what I mean? You have a way of really just connecting with people that's very authentic when it's one-on-one. Do you know what I mean? If you're in a group, there's a public face. But when it's individual, it's one-on-one. Anyway, I'm just talking. Did you have any advice for her?
For what? Say it again. Remind me.
The question was, what do you do when you feel like you're not being your authentic self?
Just take it one day at a time. I mean, essentially, let me see. The desire should always be to be truly like the Lord. So I know that sounds like a contradiction. I'm saying don't be like others, but be like the Lord. But honestly, you hopefully you get it. We are to be like the Lord. But it's not something that we necessarily do. The Lord does it in us and through us. We just yield to Him, and He's the one who makes us like Him. But I think if you ever notice yourself talking a certain way or acting a certain way when you get around certain people, and you an alarm goes off on the inside, and you think to yourself, what are you doing?
This isn't who I am.
Yeah, why are you acting this way?
Yeah.
Why when the alarm goes off, you should really consider why that alarm's going off. Perhaps you're stressing out about things that are not important. We stress a lot about trying to please others. A lot of the time, the reason many times we act like others and go to the extreme of really putting on a show, a spectacle even, is because we're really insecure and trying to be a man pleaser. We're trying to make people admire us, like us, accept us, when really the only one we really need to think about or be concerned about accepting us is the Lord. Am I accepting to the Lord? Am I what the Lord wants me to be? If you're in good spiritual shape with the Lord, then you're right where you need to be, and you don't need to worry about others. Because I was just trying to think, what's the motivator to try to mimic someone else.
Yeah, to be inauthentic.
And it's because you're not comfortable with you,
Mm.
so you're trying to be like someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Young people do it. I mean, I guess maybe, well, we're middle aged. I guess maybe middle aged people do it, but I'm not so sure. I think it's more seen in kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think kids school age and all. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
trying to be the popular one.
I still think it's personality thing. I think some people are just that way and some people aren't.
Possible.
But I do think it's worse with immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more mature someone gets, the more they're better at being authentic.
Yeah, I think maturity is a good word to use.
Mm-hmm.
Because in all seriousness, I think maturity is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned when I first started speaking in public and stuff, preaching, teaching, and all that. I did try to talk similar to preachers that I was listening to,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean,
that's how you learn.
Yeah, I mean, I did it kind of like a learning thing.
Yeah,
like you said, because I didn't grow up in church and I wasn't around pastors,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't hear sermons and things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got saved at 26, and then by 27 or so, I was already preaching here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well how do you do this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening to sermons all the time. So it just kind of like, I started leaning on that style kind of thing. But now it's been 16 years, and now I'm
you're just Richard Beale.
Well, and it's not that I'm doing it against the Lord. I honestly, truly believe that the Lord made me who I am for a reason. And if he wanted me to be something different, he would have made me that.
I agree. I think you all would agree. There is not another Richard Beale, but the way that he explains things is completely different from anyone else, and frankly, I think better than anyone else.
Well, I'm not trying to.
I'm not puffing you up.
I'm not trying
puffing
to put
the Lord up
on me. I want you to apply what I just said about me to you.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You don't need to act like someone else.
Yes, you have to embrace how the Lord made you.
The Lord made you different than everyone else for a reason.
For a purpose. That's right.
Okay, he made us all different. But we're all serving in the same ministry, doing the same work for the Lord. Similar, what I should say. And but it's like the body, hands, feet, that kind of thing. And that goes with personalities and all.
Jess said that spending time with the Lord shows her what areas she needs to change, which aren't truly her. I think that goes for everyone. I mean, people who struggle with being inauthentic, being close to the Lord will help you to be authentic and do it in such a way that it's what it needs to be. You know what I mean? David, because he was close to the Lord, could use the sling and the stone and it be as effective as if Saul or somebody had come in with the sword and the whole armor. You know what I mean? Because he was using what the Lord had prepared him with. And, even the people who are, like I said, it's different personalities. People like me and Ella who don't struggle with being inauthentic, struggle with being authentic and maybe sometimes being kind. If you lean on the Lord, then your authenticity can be the kind that it needs to be. You know what I mean? Then the Lord can use that as well. But anyway, you want to move on?
Yes.
Okay. So
I honestly think we were there longer than I thought we'd be.
Well, they had a question. We'll hang out here. Shauna says she loves your style.
Well, praise the Lord. Because I remember a preacher said something like that one time. He was just talking, and he kind of got off on one of those little stories, and he's just preaching away, and he's talking, he's preaching, and he came to the end of the sermon, and he looked at him and he said, "Did y'all get anything out of that?" and they went, "Amen, amen, amen." And he said, "Well, give the Lord praise." He went back up to the pulpit. So,
all right. So
sometimes I think to myself, "Did you get anything out of that?"
It says Goliath drew near to David, and the man with the shield went before him. And he looked around. He saw David, and it says he disdained him because he was young and pretty. It doesn't say pretty, but that's, how I read it. And then he made this whole joke about him and cursed David by his gods and threatened him. at which point David threatened him back. And at that point, David starts running. But I have to say, I can't ever think of this part of the story without thinking of the voice of truth. Have you guys ever heard that song? It's a contemporary Christian song. I don't even know who sings it, to be honest with you. Oh, Casting Crowns. But I was thinking about the lyrics. Can I quote them? Do you mind?
Go ahead.
Because there's this verse, and it says, "Oh, what I would do to have the kind of strength it takes to stand before a giant with just a sling and a stone, surrounded by the sound of 1,000 warriors shaking in their armor, wishing they'd had the strength to stand. But the giant's calling out my name, and he laughs at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The giant keeps on telling me time and time again, boy, you'll never win." And then it goes into the chorus, and then at some point it says, "But the stone was just the right size to put the giant on the ground." Right. And so this is the whole idea, is that, there's more to the song, but that's the portion that relates to this story. Right. So I'm glad you guys know it and love it. But the part that always got me when I listened to the song was where it was talking about the giant calling out his name and laughing at him.
Mm-hmm.
And telling him he was going to fail. And so when I think of this part of the story, that's what I think of. I think of the giant mocking David, just acting like he was a complete joke and threatening him and like every way trying to get him to back down. And I think that's really relevant to how when we get ourselves in circumstances that seem challenging, there's always like everything coming at us to try to make us back down. And we really have to be focused on the Lord if we're going to face those battles in such a way that we're going to be victorious. But that's what it reminds me of.
I was thinking of this, back in verse 29, he said, "Is there not a cause?" Verse 48, it says, "And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David." You already mentioned it, read it. David hasted. Okay. And ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. He ran. Okay. I was thinking of this. When the cause is great, when you see it, when it has really done something to your life, to your heart, when the cause is greater than your desire to remain inactive, you'll run. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think sometimes we just like check out. You criticized, brought up that I was driving the other day with my eyes shut. What you were implying is that I was driving and I just decided to check out for a while. Just put the kickstand down and just zone and veg. And totally inaccurate. But what I want to say is that there are a lot of people, and we're guilty sometimes of that, I think, that we put the kickstand down and we veg. We kind of zone out. You ever take one of those days? Every now and again, you got to take a day. Some people make a lifestyle out of it. They just never stop vegging. They just never stop the kind of like the, you know what I mean? Like that whoosh. They're just cruising along, not really caring about anything, not really thinking about anything. They're just kind of
coasting.
Drifting. Well, the Lord has not called us to be drifters. Okay? There is a cause. And every single one of us should have a desire to run for the Lord. Okay? And really be used of him in a big way. Now I say, I just want to get through this life and make as little, I don't want to make any ripples. I don't want anybody to notice me, kind of thing. And again, I'm not talking about pride, and I'm not talking about being noticed like I want to be noticed. I'm saying the Lord's put us here for a reason. And we really should take a stand for the cause of Christ and let your light shine. It's not prideful to let the light from heaven shine. I mean, if it's not your light, if you're just showing God's light, that's not sinful. Okay. And we're called to let that light shine. So, in other words, we need to be visible, not hidden. David was not hiding, he was running. Okay. He was running right to meet the Philistine. And I'll tell you, I wrote down in my notes, great faith. Great faith will cause you to run. Also, if you're a little crazy. If you're a little crazy, you'll run. But folks, if you have great faith, you'll run too. Okay. And of course, the great faith is the one that we should be leaning toward. Although some of us still a little crazy. But great faith will cause you to run at the storm. I was reminded of the 9/11 firefighters and first responders that during the time that the World Trade Center was about to come down, and no one really knew how bad it was. That a lot of it's been commented or brought up so much. It used to be anyway, that there were so many people running out of the buildings, but the first responders and the police, the firefighters, were running into the buildings. And folks, honestly and truly, this world is doomed, lost, and on its way to hell. Christians ought to be running toward it, evangelizing, telling people about the Lord, okay? Not running away from it. There's so many Christians out there, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. They see a rough world, and their first thought is, I want to live off grid. Oh, I just want to find a spot on a mountain somewhere, and I don't want to talk to anybody. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, the craziness of this world makes me want to do that. But in all seriousness, when you think about it for a while, I hope you understand God did not call us to do that.
Yep.
He didn't call us to go hide.
No, he said go into the world.
We are soldiers. We are to be on the offense. We're not to hide. We're not to be scared. We're not to have the fear of man. We're have the fear of God, the love for the Lord, and to go and actually affect this world for Jesus Christ in a positive way. So folks, understand that we are soldiers. We are to go, not to run and hide. If we're going to run toward it, not away from it, is what I'm saying.
I will say this. To me,
go ahead,
because I'm different than you. That's not the most encouraging story to tell.
What?
like the firefighters that were running into the 9/11.
That was an example.
I know, but you even compared the world to that, and I was like, oof. But I understand that. Well, hold on, no, before you defend it, let me finish with my thought. I understand that we need to be willing, and I do think that you do have to account the cost and be willing to go out and, if necessary, suffer and die for the Lord. I mean, that's just, it comes down, you do have to weigh the cost and understand that may be what, in fact, it costs you. And you got to be prepared for that. But at the same time, I also feel like the point of David's story, and a lot of the stories that you see in the Bible, is that oftentimes we're scared of the death and the other things that might happen. And that hinders us from going out there, when we really should be so filled with faith that we see the victory before the victory is even there. You know what I mean? And I know the victory could take many forms. But I was thinking about it as I was reading it, this whole thing with David. What would you do for the Lord? Like if the Lord has put something on your heart, maybe he wants you to have a homeless ministry. Maybe he wants you to do an addictions ministry. Maybe he wants you to be an evangelist, whatever. If there's something the Lord's been putting on your heart and you knew that God has put it on your heart and that it is something that he has prepared you uniquely to do, and there are some things that could possibly be holding you back. Maybe if you're doing a homeless ministry, you're worried about like the finances. Maybe you're doing an addictions ministry. Maybe there's some training you feel like you need. You know what I mean? whatever it is that the Lord is calling you to, if you feel so certain that the Lord is calling you to it, to the extent that you almost know that victory is assured, all you got to do is walk in that direction, and he is going to open the doors and do all of the things and help you get to the place that you need to go. If you could push all of the fear aside, all of the concerns, all of the worries, and just know that victory is assured, wouldn't you want to be like David and just run in that direction? You know what I mean? And what's keeping us from running? It's that fear. That, there's all these different details that you think might get in the way, and it might fall apart, and your life might not work out. It might not be okay. People get caught up, and that's why no one is in ministry. That's why people aren't running into these buildings. Because like, oh, I don't know, that structure doesn't look really good. Maybe I shouldn't go up there, But they're not. You can't do that if you're the rescuer. The rescuer has to put all that aside and say, I got a job to do, and I can't look at all that. Yeah, all right, there's possible danger. I got to do it anyway. But I feel like as believers, we have to focus on the victory. Know that there's possibilities. Ignore them. Recognize our job and what the Lord's called us to in ministry, and run toward it, knowing that the Lord is there. You know what I mean? Knowing that he has got you, he has got a plan, he's going to work it out in the way that's for his glory, and that you have to put all of that aside because he has something he wants to do using you in your life. And if you can't push past that fear, then you're not going to get the victory, but also other people who would have gotten a victory if you'd have done it, they're not getting it either. If David hadn't gone out there, then all of Israel wouldn't have had that victory. You know what I mean? They'd been sitting on the sidelines. The Philistines probably taken over. But David, because he's willing to run out there and just go after it, he's got that assuredness. Like, that's what I want to bottle up. And that's the kind of thing that I want to like put on people's hearts and say, God is still God. He still wants to save his people. You know what I mean? He still wants a victory over wickedness. And he's still going to use his people to do it if his people would get off the sidelines, use whatever it is they've got, and go. Rather than shaking in fear about the possibilities. You know what I mean? Just go. So it's like, sometimes you just want to like, you know what I mean? Just like grab it, let's go do something, and like really get excited about it. But you can't do that with everybody. You just have to worry about your own self and make sure you're the one who's running. Because even if no one else does, you can be the David and get out there and defeat the giant, and then everybody else can run out and defeat the Philistine. You have the complete victory, right? But it's got to take that one. Yeah, exactly. Let's go. Somebody's got to do something. Let's go do it. Let's go do it, man. He lives with me, so he doesn't get fired up by me.
Oh, I get fired up plenty. I'm just...
That's your fired up look?
I work today, folks. I've been up since 4. It's been a long one.
Ella said, let them eat our dust. That's right. Get out there. Come on, get fired up. Give him a grr.
Grr. What's my point? I mean, you're preaching to me. I'm the one who wrote it in my notes. You're acting like it's your point. It's my point. I'm the one who wrote
You're right.
Run.
It was your point.
And you look at me and say run. It's my point.
You didn't say it like I did, though.
No. You said it much better. It's still my point. Run. Don't waste time. Run. Go ahead.
My spiritual gift is exhortation, which is encouragement.
Yeah.
I'm good at the exhortation. He's good at the preaching.
One more time though, when you're afraid of man, and I'm not even talking about violence or any kind of people, any people hurting you or something like that physically.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, what freaks us out is just people looking down on us, people thinking off things about us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think sometimes we would rather people just hit us than to gossip and talk about us and everything. And a lot of us just can't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I don't like it either when things are said about me or my family and all. I mean, it's natural, but you can't let that paralyze you.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll let it paralyze you, and you'll never do anything with your life until you realize, like David realized, that there is a cause.
Mm-hmm.
There is something greater than remaining stationary.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to go and fight the giant. Okay? And folks, he ran. He wasn't going to waste his life. You know, he knew God and he wanted to be used of God.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran. And not like a little shuffle, shuffle, run, shuffle, shuffle, run. He ran like a kid at lunchtime. You know what I'm talking about.
Haste.
Yes, I'll be honest with you. I never ran for anything. But when it was time to go to the cafeteria, I don't want to stand in line. You know what I mean? When they rung that bell,
mm-hmm.
your husband was gone. Mm-hmm. I wanted my churro, little cinnamon stick. Churro. We used to have them in the lunch line. I was a chubby kid.
No, you weren't.
I wanted my churro and my chocolate milk. So I used to run, man. You know, I'd go get that thing. And anyway, so you just got to run. And folks, when you want something more out of life than the same old, you're going to run. And I'm not talking about pride of life stuff. I'm talking about wanting to be used of God. God is already at work in this world. And you say, Lord, I just want to get on board with what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I just want to do it with you. And I want to do it, you know, alongside. I just want to join up, you know, and folks, that should be our desire. And we shouldn't be kind of like letting everybody else get ahead. We should be the trailblazers, you know, follow us, you know, as we're going on to serve the Lord. A lot of people need that. You know, a lot of people need to see some people who want to run. Mm-hmm. It'll get a lot. You know, I tell you what, when you first start running for the Lord, you may run by yourself. But you know what? Sooner or later, you'll find some friends. You'll find some company. I don't know how long it'll be. Many times, you know, when no one's doing anything, everybody's just sitting around like an old dead pond, you know? But then somebody gets out and starts running. And sooner or later, that thing catches on. You know, I hate to bring it up because it's such a worldly example. I hate to bring it up, but maybe somebody out there, the carnal ones, might understand what I'm saying. So there's this movie that they called it the Forrest Gump, right? I know it's worldly, but somebody's like, Rick, I already know what you're talking about. You know, and I know that the toward the end where he goes and starts running, right?
Oh, okay.
And then people really thought like, well, you know,
they don't even know why he's running, but they just decide to follow him.
But it stirred something in people. Mm-hmm. And then he ran by himself for a long time, mm-hmm. and then all of a sudden everybody started running with him. Mm-hmm. And that's a worldly example. But think of it like Christians. When you're running, I mean, the Christian life is referred to. It's a course that you run. Mm-hmm. When a Christian starts running the race for Jesus, it kind of stirs other Christians mm-hmm. to run. Mm-hmm. So I tell you what, sometimes I'll listen to a sermon and it's like hitting a brick wall. I you know, not at first anyhow, but many times I'll hear like missionaries or somebody like that come and they'll give a testimony and they'll start talking about what the Lord's doing and on their mission field, and how people were saved, and this, that, and the other. And it will encourage me to get out and start doing stuff. I see somebody else running. I want to run with them.
Mm-hmm.
Are we froze?
Well, I was looking at it. It looks like it's fine now, so I was telling everybody to reload.
Okay.
It might have frozen for a minute.
It makes perfect sense. It's so cold down here. Even the Bible study's freezing up.
I hope not. No sound. Did you pull the button out?
No, but Jess said we're back now.
Okay.
Better now.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right. Make sure we're good.
That was spooky.
Okay. Yay. They said last I heard was a brick wall.
I don't know, but I got something else I'm gonna say.
Say it.
It's all about the running.
Old dead pond.
It's all about the running.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The cause.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it many times. This is a rescue operation for the souls of people.
Mm-hmm.
I brought up the 9/11 buildings.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that that's kind of like a tough thing to motivate people. But I have often brought up the 9/11 buildings and everything, and compared it to how preachers should, and soul winners, and evangelists and Christians should approach the gospel and this lost and dying world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We should see it as a rescue operation. The reason that the first responders were running into the building is that lives were at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And something is more important.
Yes.
Saving people was more important. And when you really want to help somebody, when you really, it kind of pushes you into situations.
Yeah.
And we should see evangelism as a rescue operation, and really run into the crowd and really do everything that we can, to lead people to Christ.
Like that verse that says, greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his brothers,
I think.
But the idea that you're willing to really lay down your life.
I heard a story of a house that was burning down, and a guy was driving by, and there were two small children in the house, and it was burning down really bad. This is a true story, I believe. He ran into the building or the house to see if he could find the kids, and he pulled them out before they burned up.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy that rescued the kids, he himself got burned up trying to find the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Not burned up, it burned.
Yeah.
His arms and all got
injured.
burned.
Mm-hmm.
And but he wasn't thinking about that when he did it.
No.
Because it was a cause. He had to save those two little kids.
Yeah.
And folks, I think sometimes we count the cost. And
we count the cost greater than the cause.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm getting at. We count it and think, oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. But folks, we got to understand that there are more important things.
Mm-hmm.
I've told this story before. Man, we were in Maryland. We had some friends work on a dryer, and we were all outside. The grown-ups were, and our kids started yelling that there was smoke in the house. We ran into the house, and the friends that we had that worked on our dryer, I don't blame the friends. It was probably just an old dryer, but it was smoking. It was on fire. Okay. And we're standing there in the house, smoky dryer.
Was it a washer?
It was a washer dryer combo.
Okay.
But the dryer was the one on. It was one of those ones where the dryer sits on top of the washer. It was one of those things. Okay. And anyway, everybody's standing there. Mm-hmm. The cord is right there.
That's why I think it was just the washer. I think it wasn't when we had the washer dryer. I think we just had the washer because you could see the cord. You know what I'm saying?
But what was the situation?
It was on fire.
It was on what? What was that? It was on fire, folks. Now, our family lived there. Our kids were there. Our friends were there. It was a townhouse, so it's connected to other families. And this thing's on fire. So everybody's just standing around. And sometimes I just stand in the background. I'm not always trying to be, the one in the front.
But you were the hero that day.
Well, that's not what I'm getting at.
But you were.
But I am building up to that.
But you. I knew you were. But you were. You really were. No question.
Everybody's just standing around, and I'm looking at guys that to me are more able than I. Tougher.
They were like tough guys.
Tough guys. Yeah. And more skilled. The reason I didn't fix the dryer, I didn't know what I was doing. So I brought the tough guys over with their tools and their know-how to fix it. Not to mention the wives. Everybody's got a wife. Big old crowds. And everybody's standing around.
Standing there, not knowing what to do.
Like they're roasting marshmallows or something. Like it's a campfire. And I'm sitting there and everybody's like, what do we do? And I'm like, and for a minute, I'm like the quiet guy. And all of a sudden, it hits me. Mm-hmm. Nobody's doing anything. Mm-hmm. There's a cause here. Mm-hmm. House is going to burn down. And I'm like, and everybody, what are we waiting on? What are we waiting for? And I'm like, there's a cord. And I'm sitting there waiting. And many times we do this. I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, surely somebody's going to pull it. Nobody's going for it. And I'm like,
jumped into action.
Huh?
Jumped into action.
Yeah, I did. Like you see on the TV.
You were like Steve Rogers jumping on the grenade.
Yeah. I didn't even have time to make it look cool. I just jumped for it. Because I thought if I ever want to make it cool, I do like it, But no, I just jumped on the thing, and I now I will say this: I ain't totally crazy. It felt like slow motion. As I'm reaching for it, I'm like, this could be it. Because I honestly didn't know what was going to happen. I was thinking, I hope this fixes it. I hope this cuts the power and the fire dies down. But this might be the end of Rick. But there was a cause. Yeah. No time to wait. So I reached and I grabbed the thing, and everything in me said, just do it quick. Mm-hmm. So I pulled it out, and it stopped.
Yes, you were the hero.
The smoke was in the air for a while and everything. The alarms going off, the kids crying and everything. But
But Dad took care of it.
What was that? Yes, he did. And anyway, this wasn't a boast moment for Rick. What I'm just using as an example. There was a cause, and sometimes you just can't sit around worrying about what's going to happen or what could happen. Sometimes the problem is so great that you just have to go and help. And that's how we should see evangelism. The problem is so great that we just need to go and help.
Do it.
Go and say, Lord,
stop sitting on sidelines.
If Lord, I can't save a soul. I can't save anybody, but if you can use me to tell somebody about you and help lead that person to you, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll run. I'll be the one to do it, kind of deal. So I rambled for a long time about that, but there's a lot of thinking there about running. And if you ever did a Bible study on just the theme of running, you'll see it. I mean, that would be an interesting Sunday school lesson or sermon or whatever. Just the running, running the Christian life. David ran here. I'm thinking of Aaron when he ran to when Moses told him to run and stand between the the people and really their judgment. So anyhow, going to something else. We're over an hour,
so we're gonna have to pause again and finish the story again tomorrow. That's why I said this has got a lot of good stuff in it. It's going to take a little while to dig through it. This is why this is one of those stories that endures because it's filled with so much good stuff. But anyway, so you can close in prayer and we'll be done for the night. I think everybody should be encouraged tonight to get busy, run. Do something. Get out there. Make a difference.
I mean, just the Great Commission is where it says to go.
Go.
To go.
Ye.
Yeah. But when I read it, I don't know how you read it, but when I read "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature," it just puts in me a kind of a urgency.
Yeah.
When I hear in my heart, in my mind, the Lord tells people to go.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that he didn't mean,
Do.
Exactly. Yeah, he doesn't mean
Take your sweet time.
a penguin go. He means like give me a fast bird.
Ostrich. Oh, no.
An ostrich go. What's that little
Roadrunner?
Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Yes, the Lord didn't want a penguin; He wanted a roadrunner or an emu. What is it? The little crocodile, the wiggles. Emu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've lost the people. Anyway,
go ahead and pray while you're still the hero.
I'm talking about emus. I can't even say it. How do you say that?
Emu.
Okay. Are we really done?
Yep.
Okay. I hope everyone got something out of tonight's lesson. Run the Christian life. Run the Christian walk. Run for the Lord.
Run the walk.
Run the walk. Run the race.
Run the race.
My mind's getting tired.
Yeah. Well, Ella said Bustello. What did she say, Bruce? I can't find it now. I gotta roll back.
What are you talking about? Copy and paste.
Wow, there's a lot of chat tonight. Well, the idea, when you're weaning yourself off of Bustello.
No, I'm on it again.
Oh, withdrawal. Thank you. That's the word. She said Bustello withdrawal is real.
I only did Folgers last night.
But you back on the Bustello?
Shame on me. Really, the two thoughts that I want to leave you with before I pray, and I'm getting ready to pray, okay? Everybody's got to go to bed. It's just run the race, not the walk.
Run.
If it's a walk, run it.
Bustello is espresso.
And we did linger for a long time on don't wear someone else's armor, or don't try to use someone else's gifts.
Yes.
The Lord gives you, your own armor. He gives you your own ability. Use that for the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't have to speak like someone else. You don't have to walk like someone else. You don't have to do this and do that. Just
be you and run.
Exactly. And we're not talking about being fleshy and worldly and carnal.
No.
We're being Christ-like.
Yeah, focus on the Lord.
But you being Christ-like,
mm-hmm.
not someone else being Christ-like. Mm-hmm. You personally, with your own relationship with the Lord, you grow and be Christ-like. Mm-hmm. Okay? So don't wear someone else's armor and run that race. I'm going to pray. Lord, thank you for tonight. And we talked about really just a couple of things, but we talked about it in great detail. And I pray that you'll use the things that were said and really challenge us to think about what was going on here in David and Goliath's chapter passage. Think about it and apply it more to our life today. There's so many things that we can get out of this for our life, things that we didn't even discuss on this Bible study. Really, Lord, thank you for challenging us to live a life of faith and just to be real and be serious, and help us to have a heart like David that sees a cause, sees something worth doing and fighting and being a part of. And I pray that you just challenge us all to just go with our whole heart and just serve you and give you all the praise for it. Lord, we thank you for all that you do. Thank you for working in our life. Thank you for wanting to use us. And we praise your name in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. I was yawning. My eyes watered. But come back tomorrow. And we're going to continue with 1 Samuel 17, and hope maybe even finishing up tomorrow. I think we'll be at the tail end because David's already running at Goliath. So, I mean, there's not a lot more to the story. But anyway, yes, bedtime. You all have a good night. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Good night, folks.